Welcome to the Crazy Chicken People podcast. If you're crazy about chickens, then you're in the right place. What's up, guys? Thanks for joining me again today on the Crazy Chicken People podcast. In this week's episode, I want to take a step away from finding new ways to give our chickens the best life possible and take a chance to talk about some of the things that our chickens have helped to give us. And I'm not talking about eggs or the cute pictures that we can share or even the love that they show back to us. I'm talking about some of the life-changing experiences and lessons that I not only never saw coming, but even if somebody would have told me about before I started down this road, I probably wouldn't have believed. I never really put a lot of thought into it before, but I was talking to someone recently who had just heard and was surprised that I had started doing a podcast. And like a lot of people have responded when I tell them, he was like, "It's about chickens?" Yeah, dude, it's about chickens. As if some part of me felt like I needed to defend it or justify it, I just opened up about all the positive ways that raising chickens had changed my day-to-day life and explaining some of the deeper stuff, beyond just collecting eggs and watching them cluck around, but ways that I had reprioritized so many things in my life. I really thought about it a lot the rest of the day after that, about how the trickle-down effect of making sure I had those coops and runs cleaned up every week, no matter what, was that I started waking up earlier every Saturday and making sure I was down at the barn, getting all my chores done before anyone else woke up. And as a result, gained what has become one of the best, most peaceful parts of my week. And without having to take away from the time I spend with family or taking care of other responsibilities. So just recognizing how many aspects of my life had changed in a positive way, I wanted to use today's show to reflect on some of those things and hopefully get you guys thinking about some of the good things that have happened in your life because you raised chickens. So not really in any specific order, but I will save the most important one for last. Let's get into the list. Over the past 40 or something episodes, we've talked a lot about how important it is to feed your chickens a healthy diet so they can keep producing you healthy eggs and get all the nutrition they need to avoid some of the long-term health issues that can pop up when they don't. And I mean, it's not like I was ignorant to the fact that we also need good food, but I've never been as proactive about making sure my own diet was as clean and healthy as I have with my chickens. Maybe because as people, we've gotten so used to eating things that come out of a box or a can or some kind of packaging. But all the natural remedies, the herbs that we've talked about that can help your chickens to fight off certain bugs or to keep their digestive system in good order, well, all those things are true for us too. And since I've found myself putting in all this work into making sure my chickens are eating right, I've also started caring way more about the food that me and my family eat too. I can't say that we don't still hit Taco Bell from time to time or keep some sodas in the fridge, but I am way more picky about the foods I buy now and trying my best to balance that desire to buy as much organic food or grass-fed beef as I can, while unfortunately also trying to make that fit within our food budget. It's crazy what some of this stuff costs now, especially if you try to avoid the processed stuff. But making sure that my kids understand the importance of eating quality food and continuing to teach them about where our food comes from and the options we have beyond the packaged or overprocessed junk that's been made so easy for us to choose has become something way more important to me than it was just a few years ago. I love cooking up fresh eggs that I know the full story behind. And my kids love helping to process and cook meat that came from a wild animal that had a chance to live a free and happy life before eventually ending up on our dinner plate. And I get to show them that there is another option to eating the garbage that lines most of the shelves at the grocery store. And that's become really important to me. And though it's unfortunate it took me this long to come around and make that a priority, I'm glad that I did. And I kind of owe that to my chickens. The next thing I want to talk about is being able to embrace and accept imperfections. At one point in my adventures of chicken raising, I thought that it was really important that I had the perfect flock of birds, the right breeds that laid the perfect assortment of just the right colored eggs. Just the way I had to make sure that any woodworking project I did came out perfectly square, or any wooden spoon that I had carved was perfectly symmetrical. Yeah, I went on a bender of carving spoons out of exotic hardwoods for a while. It was something I just happened to see a YouTube video on one time and thought, oh, I could do that. I could do that better than he did. Burned up a lot of time and money at the local hardwood mill. And it's been like that with just about any hobby I had taken on. And I didn't like that. But I never made a real effort to change it. I just took it as something I had to deal with. And unfortunately, so did the people around me. Now, I tried to apply that same goal of perfection to everything I did in the chicken yard. Need to build the perfect coop. Need to have just the right mix of different breeds. And find the perfect feed to give them. And I failed. Shouldn't be a surprise. There's no perfect way to raise a chicken. And it didn't matter how hard I tried, I had to accept that I was never going to be perfect at all those things I was trying to do. In the past, that might have been the same time I decided to quit. Like, if I couldn't do something to perfection, then it wasn't worth doing. It was easy to give up on golf once I realized I was never going to be that good at it. Putting my carving tools away and giving up on carving the perfect wooden spoon was no big deal. Just another hobby and a few $100 in tools wasted. But at no point did I ever consider giving up on raising chickens just because I couldn't perfect it. I had made a commitment to these living things, and giving them away just wasn't an option. So something had to change. And that something was me. Over time, I came to realize I could still be happy, still enjoy what I was doing, if I just gave up on that idea that I needed to do it better than anyone else had. That I had to have this perfect flock that would never get sick or never lose a chicken to a predator. I had to accept imperfection if I was going to be able to enjoy all the awesome things that come along with it. That was a hard pill to swallow, but I am so much better off now that I have. And that has truly trickled down into the other areas of my life. My kids will tell you, finding a way to be totally happy with a chicken that looks a little goofy or maybe that's some sort of mix of who knows what breed has made it a lot easier to be okay with their bedrooms being only as clean as a little kid can be expected to make it. Or to be a little more forgiving when I see that they missed an easy word on their spelling test. I'm not totally over it. I still spend way too much time trying to get something perfectly placed in their run, or having my tools perfectly set up in the shop, or even getting the audio on these shows to sound perfect. You wouldn't believe how much time I spent early on trying to edit these shows to get them to sound just right. I've found a way to be happy with being good enough, and that's been a huge positive change in my life. It's another one I owe to chickens. The next one I want to talk about has to do with how I really want to make as much time as possible to spend not just taking care of my chickens, but actually enjoying just sitting and watching them. I've actually gotten way better at managing all of my time. Maybe managing it isn't even the right word, but really making the most out of it. My days are crazy busy. I know, we're all busy. I'm not looking for sympathy. But leaving the house for work before 6, getting home after 5, doesn't leave a lot of time to do all the other important stuff. Gotta make sure the kids did their homework, spend a little time with them, yell at them for leaving a mess, have to feed all the other animals and make sure Wendell gets some attention. I need to plan, record, and edit this show. Make sure we all sit down together for dinner and get some quality time in with the wife. And hopefully, still have a little bit of time to just sit and enjoy watching my chickens be chickens. But with so much to do every day, it takes some planning and some effort to squeeze it all in. I gave up on getting tons of sleep a long time ago, and I'm not one to just sit around on the couch doing nothing. But even with that, I still have to squeeze every minute out of every day that I can. And that means giving up on some of the stuff that really wasn't all that good for me anyways. Deciding to spend less time wasted watching TV was the first step. Making a real effort to put my phone down when I get home and be more present when I am in the house has been a huge improvement for me and the people around me. And just being way more mindful about how I go about my business has helped me to create enough time to still do all the things I love to do and feel way more productive with how I do spend that time. I already mentioned it, but those extra couple hours I give myself in the morning on the weekends have been awesome. I use that time to get the cleaning done, work on projects I have going on around down there, or sometimes just sit and drink some coffee with my chickens without having to worry about what's not getting done. And honestly, I don't feel like I've given up a thing. TV is pretty much trash, anyways. I still make time for a show or two during the week, family movie nights on the weekends. But I mean, what else is there really? Am I going to watch the news? Sit there and listen to a bunch of stories that are told with whatever political twist they want to put on it? Or just stare at my phone so I can see a bunch of ads trying to sell me the thing my phone just heard me talking about? I mean, look, I've been sucked into that just like everybody. It happens, and it can be hard to give up. But I don't miss it for a second. And I feel way better about how I spend my day, not missing out on the things that bring me real happiness. So, some people have asked me if I regret having bought this place, having all these responsibilities and chores, no time to do whatever it is normal people do with their time. You know what the only thing I regret is? Not having done it sooner. So, it might sound a little weird, but I owe it to chickens for having really made a huge improvement in how I manage my time and get to spend my days. Okay, last one. And to me, this is the thing that's had an effect on pretty much every aspect of my life. When we first got chickens, I wasn't even totally into it. I remember telling my wife as she left to go pick up chicks to not get too many. I think I said like no more than 6. Pretty sure she came back with twice that number. And I pretty much had no idea what I was doing when it came time to take care of them. You might remember the story about the first coop I built for those silkies. Didn't work out. But as time went on, we started to figure things out, at least the basics, enough to get by. But I remember the first time we had a chicken get really sick, and I had no clue what to do. No idea. I just kind of figured we were going to lose her. How is a guy whose only real experience caring for a bird came back in FFA when I raised a turkey for the fair going to save this poor chicken? But at that point, I really cared about that little chicken. I'd raised it since it was a baby, and it was just as important to me as any of the other pets we had. So I started cramming to learn everything I could as fast as I could, like I was back in high school studying for a test in a class I hadn't paid attention in. And looking back, I probably did too much, kind of throwing the whole kitchen sink at it. I didn't know exactly what was wrong with her, and there was times I was genuinely scared that if she didn't die from the sickness she had, she might die from over-treating her. But I didn't let that fear or my inexperience get in the way of doing anything and everything I could to save her. I was determined to not let her die. It took a few weeks, and that was the first chicken to spend a few nights in the house with us. But she did pull through. And it's not something that hit me right away, but over time I realized I can do this. I can step out of my comfort zone, and if I really put in the effort, I can do whatever it is that seems to be this thing that's just way over my head or way too uncomfortable. Even starting this podcast. I didn't start doing it because I wanted to be a podcaster. I did it to prove to myself that I could. And now I feel like I've got the confidence to know that if I really put my mind and my heart into it, I might just be able to pull it off, whatever that might be. Maybe I'm making too much of all this, and some people might say it shouldn't take raising chickens to learn these things out about yourself. And they're probably right. But for me, it sure did help. That's all I have for you this week. And if you're still listening, I appreciate you hearing me out on something that may not necessarily help you take better care of your chickens, but then again, maybe it will. I'll see you guys next week for another episode, and I'll try to steer it back towards chicken care. In the meantime, you guys take care.